Hey folks, I'm Chris and I'm your Commander Mechanic, here with the season finale of Season 2 of Let's Do a Brew. That's right, next week is the start of November, a special event where you'll be getting a deck list from us every day, supporting a very special cause, Sick Kids Toronto, a charity near and dear to my heart. Our special guest today on the season finale of Let's Do a Brew is none other than the chairman of the Rules Committee and founder of the format, Sheldon Menery himself. Sheldon, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming out.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me.
Oh, Sheldon, it is truly an honor to have you on the show. It is part of my content creator bucket list to have a conversation with you. So really, the fact that you're taking the time out of your day to come and join us on Let's Do a Brew is an absolute honor.
Yeah, you kind of caught me sitting here in a t-shirt, so.
Well, I don't expect you to be in a blazer and slacks all day, every day, right?
It's on brand, man. It's on brand.
Fantastic. So, Sheldon, for anybody that's not familiar with you, not that I'm sure there would be many people that aren't, but why don't you let the audience know who you are and why you're so important to this format?
Well, like Chris said, my name is Sheldon Menery, and I'm commonly regarded as the founder of the Commander format, or the format EDH, which then became Commander. I'm also a former level 5 judge, and I think I still head judge the most Pro Tours in history. Maybe Toby passed me. But I'm also founder of the Commander Rules Committee, which we put together in 2006. So I've literally been on the ground floor and managing Commanders since the beginning.
That is incredible. And a founder of the format on the Rules Committee, you have very firmly shaped not only EDH and Commander, but really the direction of Magic the Gathering as a game for, since the beginning, since you created this format with friends.
Yeah, it was, when we were still going to events last year, the first morning of Command Fest Seattle, I came into the hall before they opened the doors, found a spot to sit down and set up where I was going to play games with fans, and doors open. About an hour later, at 11 o'clock in the morning or so, I needed to sit down. I just needed to stretch my back. So I stood up and I looked around the room, and there were more people playing the format in that room right then than I would have ever imagined were in the world playing the format.
Absolutely. There is a very good reason why Commander is the predominant format of Magic in today's day and age. There are more people around the world that play it than play the sanctioned competitive formats.
Correct.
It has essentially been a way to put a rules set around kitchen table Magic. And that appeals to a massive audience. It really does.
Yeah, it appeals to such a large audience that there are more people that we still don't know anything about that play the format than people that we know something about.
Right. And when I had Shivan on the show too, we talked about that, how the audience that we know about that plays Magic and plays Commander is literally the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
The ones that we don't know about are the silent few who watch content but don't engage with it, or those that just play with friends and the only engagement they've had with the format, or the only way that they know about you is going to check out the ban list on the Rules Committee site. And apart from that, these people are complete unknowns.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit on something really, really important on why the format is so popular. Other formats are defined by the hard edges of what cards are allowed and what cards aren't. And Commander is the only format that has a philosophy. And that philosophy is about capturing that resonant experience, sort of capturing that kitchen table Magic experience. And it's clearly struck the hearts of way more people than we ever expected it would.
And that's one of the reasons why we have a show here on the channel called Commander Philosophy, is because there is an actual philosophy document behind the format that defines it and helps outline it. And it's not a strict definition. It's not like you can get disqualified from playing EDH, right? And that's, again, something that appeals. You've got Rule Zero, that is all about talking with your play group and talking through what you want to get out of the experience, and do you want to play with cards? Do you want to house ban cards? It's the kind of format where there are both a set of rules for it, and you can house rule it too.
Sometimes people say, well, the RC is lazy because they lean too hard into Rule Zero. We actually don't lean into Rule Zero. You'll hear us talking about it, but you're not going to hear us talk about Rule Zero as a reason or an excuse for a rule or a card ban or anything.
Right.
It's like people, I think the people that are critical see Rule Zero as the engine, and we see it as the ejector seat.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And there have definitely been times where I've been playing with a play group and we've said, hey, this is getting oppressive. Let's stop doing that. Right. And we come together as a team and have that conversation. And that's one of the things about the format, where when you've got a good play group that you're with, you can say what's fun and what's not fun, and you can make those rules for yourself. And if somebody doesn't agree with something that the rules committee has said, then, hey, feel free to try playing without it once in a while. If somebody says, ban XYZ, there's no reason why you can't talk to your play group and say, we aren't going to play with this card anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to play canonical Commander, there are definitely hard boundaries. But if you're having fun, I really don't care if you're playing canonical Commander. Right? As long as you're enjoying yourself, then I've done my job.
Exactly. And those canonical rules, as you say, they've really helped out, especially this year with the entire global crisis that's going on right now. Arguably, there's more Commander being played right now than ever before, because Commander is the format that is most accessible and easiest to play remotely too, since there's no competitive Magic being played. There's no sanctioned Magic being played. Commander is the format that has kind of picked up the slack. Have you really seen that in your experience?
Absolutely. I'm playing more Commander. I'm playing more Magic in the last 7 months or 9 months than I ever have.
Absolutely. I said the same thing too. I have played with more people and a larger variety of people within the past few months than I've played within the last few years. And that's going to events as well. And again, that's something that must be kind of surreal for you, how something that you've created has kind of rippled through the community like this. And even in these difficult times has worked to bring people together and give people joy.
It's not the worst feeling in the world, I'll tell you that.
And something else that has happened within the last few months when it comes to streaming and playing remotely, and that is that the rules committee is streaming quite a bit now too.
Yeah, I think COVID made some things that we were planning on having happen anyway happen with more immediacy.
Yes.
Eventually we're going to do that. And in February or March, we're like, you know what? Let's just do it now.
Yeah.
And we set up a streaming channel. We stream Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern in the US. And then we've also added Sunday afternoon at 2 to be more friendly to our European friends.
Fantastic.
Right now, Boxing League is sort of dominating things, but we have special guests. Like the RC will play a game with the 4 of us first, and then somebody will swap out and we'll have special guests in.
Right. And you've had special guests on that have been here on the show too. Many people might know, like Chase or Jeremy Knoll and even Shivan. So you've had some of the stars of the content creation community on too, which has been fantastic to see.
Yeah, with last night in one of the games, Gavin Verhey and Brian David Marshall were in the same game. Right.
And the fact that you would almost never be able to sit down and play a physical game of Magic with all of these people at the same time too. I mean, it's got to be just an expansion of borders of this format. Yeah, well, for me, I do have access to those folks, so I will play with them. So it's the
it's the folks that I've never played with before that I'm really interested in finding out, if, Kristen Emily from Hipsters of the Coast came on, or Rachel Weeks came on, Chase the first time that she came on,
Right.
we hadn't ever met. So there are a lot of people that having the Twitch stream opens up access to.
Right.
And you mentioned Jeremy, and along with Jeremy and Olivia Gobert Hicks,
Yes.
we've suddenly made this streaming continuum where Jeremy is on Monday, Olivia is on Tuesday, our friends at EDH Rec are on Wednesday, RC's on Thursday,
Yeah.
Olivia's back on Friday, Jeremy's back on Saturday, we go on Sunday. And I've noticed, like, it's like the Grateful Dead following of people just winding their ways through the channels and hanging out with us. And it's beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. And just another way to bring the community together too.
Yep.
Because as many people that are wanting to play Commander and can't play it live, they want to play via webcam. There are just as many people that want to play Commander and haven't had the chance to. So they want to watch. And that's the next best thing. And that leads me to another point here, is that this format that you've created has led to so much content being created around it, and people whose livelihoods are based around a format that you and your friends made. How does that feel?
I feel better if I was getting royalty checks.
Right. Well, I mean, hey,
Prof, Josh, Jimmy.
Not only that, but now we're seeing that Wizards is actually creating product for the format too. So not only is there content being created around the format, but there's content there's product being created specifically for the format.
Well, I might argue that every set is a Commander set.
Well, I mean, more and more often, every set is becoming a Commander set. It's very clear that design has a philosophy to lean into the most popular formats.
Yep.
And how do you feel about that, where even the standard sets now have treats seated in them for us as Commander players?
Well, it's both treats and sort of fence posts just in case.
Yes.
I knew that over the last several years that once we started producing Commander product at Wizards of the Coast, I knew that they were thinking about us as a format, but it really came into focus when I was there in October and November. They had me in as a member of a design team, and one of the things that struck me, and I think I wrote about it in my first week at Wizards report in my article that week, was that how much thinking about the bigger picture everybody does. It's not just marketing people or brand managers or vice presidents. Every designer thinks holistically about the product that they're making, not just in and of itself, but as it relates to everything else in the larger biodome.
Right. And the testing has to be rigorous internally too, especially when you're designing a product like Commander Legends, which is going to be played in a format that has the legacy card pool to it. I mean, you have to have seen quite a bit of interesting interactions during your time there.
Yeah, I like to joke that the most common thing I see, so, again, being there last year, being there 10, 11 months ago, Commander Legends was pretty much at the end of its design. So I got a really good look into what was coming. And I think the most common thing that I said during my 2 months at Wizards of the Coast was to Commander Legends lead designer Jules Robbins, "Jules, we need to talk."
I'm sure that at the end of it, every time he heard that phrase or they heard that phrase, it was a little bit of a shudder and looking over their shoulder, right?
Yeah, it was good times. I mean, like, the thing is that they care about the format, and I think they get unfairly criticized a bunch about, well, they're just pushing the power level. They in some cases they are, because you have to. You can't have a game be static and still popular.
Right.
You can't surrender to just, okay, the next thing is bigger and cheaper.
Right.
You have to do lateral development, and the exploration of lines of lateral development that the designers go through, that I went through, that my team went through, are really encouraging to me, that they understand that, yeah, sometimes when you push the envelope, you break it.
Right.
Right? Prosh, Derevi, there are a couple of cards like, man, you shouldn't. And, don't staple, draw a card onto everything to try to make it better.
Yeah, exactly.
Scry 2 is good enough.
Yeah. Well, it's the back in Invasion, where you got a lot of the similar designed cards, but it was always cost 2 more and drew a card. Right. Instead, it's that kind of design, right? Well, what if we did the same? What if we made an unsummon, but it cost 3 and drew you a card? Right. That kind of design too. But
yeah, it's a good way. Like adding smaller mechanics to existing abilities is a good way of doing lateral design. Again, it can't be draw 4 cards,
right?
But scry 1, scry 2, scry 3, cantrip of some kind for everybody. Whatever it is, adding a little thing is a way to keep things fresh without surrendering too much to power creep.
Absolutely. One of the things that we've seen is, as Commander takes more and more of center stage around design as a consideration, we've been seeing more and more each opponent abilities too. Yes. And that kind of thing is good in some cases, and in some cases is a little bit format warping. There have been some discussions lately, and I released a video just recently about value in EDH and how cards like Smothering Tithe and Rhystic Study and Dockside Extortionist have gone from good cards in regular constructed formats to, in our format, being just auto includes because they are that good.
Right.
And that's because this format has the unique mechanic of having 3 opponents as opposed to 1. So you get multiplicative value whenever you're considering an opponent's action.
Right. Well, there's also multiplicative cost, because Temple Bell isn't synchronous anymore.
Right.
Temple Bell is highly asynchronous. You're drawing 1, but your collective opponents are drawing 3.
Yes.
So you have to think about that. And I'm not a big fan of giving everybody cards.
Right. Well, I mean, that right there tells me that you aren't a big fan of group hug decks, which is fine.
In general, no. Like group hug that leads to an unseen conclusion, sure, but just being there to accelerate everybody else and be a kingmaker, I'm not a fan.
Right. So on that note, I want to talk a little bit about your decks. We are all about deck building here on the channel, how it is part art, part science, and all about self-expression. So build the deck that you want to build, make it do what you want to do. What kind of decks have you built? What are some of your favorites in your repertoire?
I currently have 55, I think.
Woo.
Yeah, I have a problem.
I mean,
don't at me.
for yourself, the leader of this format, I would expect that to be normal.
So I started building that collection by doing a project of having 1 of every color combination. And that was back when there were only 27 color combinations, because we didn't have the 4 colors, and I don't think we had a good color list yet. And then just kept adding to them. And then I did what I called the do-over project, which was taking the same exact commanders, building a second deck, and couldn't put any of the same cards in besides basic lands.
I like that.
So I slowly built up, and now I try to take 2 or 3 exciting commanders from each new set and build the deck around them. as far as process goes, I'm very much the social format kind of guy. I want to do the sort of absurd things that Commander is known for. Like last night, mutating onto something with auspicious stars about 7 times. But for the most part, I want to make sure that the resonant experience that we talk about in the philosophy document happens when I play the game. Mm-hmm. So my enjoyment is augmented by the enjoyment of everybody else in the game.
Right.
And I want to make sure when I build a deck, I'm building it so that they can enjoy the game, so that I'm not taking the game away from them.
Right.
Now, so there are times that I'm going to build things, I'm going to have enchantment removal and board sweepers and, maybe some non-basic land hate. Mm-hmm. But you're not going to catch me playing Grand Arbiter, Augustin the Fourth, or a heavy stack deck or anything like that, where I'm the only person that's playing the game.
Right.
I want philosophically, I want everybody to play the game, and I want me to win the game with my brain, not with my cards.
Right.
I don't want to just plop my cards on the table and, Blood Bond combo is just not something I'd ever put in a deck.
Right.
Because to me, it's just too easy. It doesn't take any creativity or skill. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, you got to know what to 2 to 4 went. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You get the cards and you win. And right. I personally would rather find myself working my way out of a tricky situation than just having an I win combo. Mm-hmm. So I'm always going to build with cards that have flexibility and sometimes mutability in how and what kind of circumstances I can use them in.
Absolutely. And it's great that you talked about that, because just recently we had a video go up on the channel about card evaluation and how flexibility in cards is important. It is almost paramount. And things like the commands or the charms,
right.
They are the versatile spells that you want to include in decks, because they're mm-hmm. the ones that'll get you out of a tricky situation. They're the ones that'll take out a threat. They're the ones that'll mm-hmm. be what you need when you need them. Mm-hmm. And those are the kind of scenarios that many people like too. It's easy enough to get a 2-card combo and just win the game. But sure. I've talked with guests before about what we call self-censoring. And that is mm-hmm. being able to do something, but choosing not to do it. And that might be because of the enjoyment of the table. That might be because, hey, maybe you've come in with a deck that's a little bit more powerful than the people mm-hmm. that you're playing against. Just because you can win the game doesn't mean that you can't still have fun with the game and not win the game. Take it as a personal victory, a moral victory, and continue playing the game.
Yeah, I mean, only if it's a not obvious situation. Like if you have the I win combo on the board and all you need to do is activate it, if that's a little too stressful to continue with, just do it and win.
Right.
Don't, once you're at 150 life and you play Ether Flux Reservoir, game's over. Don't well, I won't activate it yet. Yes, you will.
Yeah. But right. But it takes that sense of what's going on at the table to be at 150 life and not play the Ether Flux Reservoir.
Right.
And say, I could play it right now and I can win the game. But everybody's having such a blast. Like, how do we take Sheldon down? He's at 150 life. Like, right. let's see how we can get out of this scenario. Why end everybody's enjoyment when you're having fun like that?
Yeah, right? I agree. Wholeheartedly.
And something like the Blood Chief Ascension Mindcrank combo, where mm-hmm. you very clearly have to ensure that it doesn't get enough counters on it in order right. to turn into a game-winning combo, is one of those, hey, let's 3 of us work together to make sure that doesn't end the game. Those kind of scenarios are the ones that, you're in a 1v1v1v1 format, but mm-hmm. it can very quickly shift. Part of that multiplicative value that we mentioned earlier with cards like Rhystic Study and Smothering Tithe and Dockside Extortionist plays the other way around, because you mm-hmm. can be facing down 3 opponents at once coming after you.
Yep.
And it's those kind of scenarios that make for fun experiences. It's those kind of scenarios that end up being good times and make for the social aspect of the game.
Yeah, and I think that's what you build toward. I think when you start thinking about building decks, when you are putting cards in your deck, think about the kind of cards that will do that thing and give you the sort of awesome out.
Yes.
That might turn the game into an also ran that now becomes one of the most memorable games you've ever played.
Exactly. And it is the creation of those memories and those experiences together that makes this format so unique and so special to so many. Because you will sit down with a Commander player and they will be able to tell you two things. They will be able to tell you on and on and on about their deck, how much they love it and how much effort they put into creating their deck. And they will be able to tell you cool stories about games that they played. And those are two of the most important things about this format and things that I love. One of the things that we do here on the channel is we do deck tune-ups. If somebody's looking for spots to cut in their deck, or they're looking to adapt to a new meta, they submit me their decks. And the amount of people that will give me 500 words about the amount of time and effort they've put into their deck is great. The people that I sit down with over webcam that say, this is my pet deck, it's my favorite deck, I built it 6 years ago and I've been updating it every deck, every set since. Those are kind of those heartwarming stories that make you feel good about this format.
Yep.
Fantastic. So Sheldon, normally on the show, in the back half of the show, we do a deck build where we take a commander and we talk about some of the cards that we build around the commander. But I want to do something a little bit different in today's episode. We have mentioned two things that are a little atypical about Commander as a format. The first being the EDH Boxing League, which I'd like you to go into a little bit more detail about. And the second is Commander Legends, which is being introduced as a draftable Commander format. So after we hear a little bit about the Boxing League and what the Boxing League is, I'd like us to talk about Commander as a limited format. What sets are important to Commander and what does drafting Commander look like? But first, I think most importantly, the EDH Boxing League, I think it's a fantastic premise. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
So it was the brainchild of a conversation between me and Brian David Marshall barely a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. And it's like, wouldn't it be cool? I don't even remember what we were talking about, something else. And it was, he was like, wouldn't it be cool if you took a box? I bet he had boxes laying around that he just wanted to crack for no reason and have to build the deck out of it. So from that point, we just started talking about it. So the short version is that everybody in the league takes a box of expansion or core set products. So no master sets, no anthologies, no reprint sets, anything like that. And builds a 100-card Commander legal deck. So the ban list applies, the singleton ruled supply, everything else applies. Then each week, you get to add 6 packs of any of the same kind of sets. Again, no anthologies, no Commander sets, anything like that. 6 packs from any set, except you can't open any packs of anything that you've already opened.
Right.
So, for example, I opened Ikoria for my box. Then I opened Throne of Eldraine for my week 2 6 packs. Mostly because I wanted to try to get a fling. Fling's in there at common. I'm like, I'm going for it.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, it wasn't there. So then we just get together during the course of the week and play games. So the league, it's not like standings matter or anything, right? But the league is sort of a pretty big who's who of Commander personalities. So it's the RC. It's Olivia and Shivan from the CAG, Brian David Marshall, Ben Wheeler, Rachel Weeks, the Chase, so Gavin Verhey. We have a lot of people who have streams. And a Hobbs Q. So we just sort of catch as catch can, putting games together, and then we report back results. Maybe we'll do something with the results at some point. The thing that we're tracking is the first player out and the last player standing.
Right.
Because I think both of those trends will look interesting. Like, who's the player that is consistently getting eliminated first? And is it because they're the threat, or is it because they have not the greatest deck?
Right, exactly. And taking that kind of limited aspect to it is something that kind of removes one of the pillars of Commander, in that the card pool is so deep. And having to build a 100-card deck from just what you open has to be a fascinating restriction for deck building.
Yeah, I mean, like, when I opened that Ikoria box, I got a Nethroi. I'm a sort of inveterate Abzan player. I got a Nethroi, an Eerie Ultimatum, and an Extinction Event.
Oh, very nice.
I got no support in black and white. Like nothing. There was nothing in my deck for black and white. So I ended up playing. Now, I'm not complaining, because I also got Illuna Apex of Mysteries. So I got a pretty good, I got a pretty saucy Mutate deck. And Mutate is pretty dumb. but you're playing cards that you would never play otherwise. Like, you have to play your commons and your uncommons.
Absolutely.
And when you get into that, you're like, oh man, is Porcuparrot really something I want to be playing?
Right. That's incredibly interesting, because could you eventually, after you open up enough packs, pivot your entire deck? You could change your commander if you do end up getting the support in black and white and green to go over to Nethroi.
Yeah, we actually had two people Chase opened Ikoria as her 6-packs and got a Nethroi and switched over to Abzan. And Gavin Verhey, who opened M21 as his box, and the only not monocolored legend he got was Rada Heir to Kel.
Right.
And he basically, week one, played a draft chaff pile.
Right.
He opened Ikoria for his week 2 boxes, got Gyruda, and has put together a very saucy deck from it.
Nice.
So yeah, pivoting. I still dream about the pivot, but I wonder, like, I'm so desperate for black cards, I'm ready to open Torment for one of my sets.
Yeah, and to Torment, for those that weren't playing at the time, is a black weighted set. It has more black cards than non-black cards in it. Yeah. So definitely a strategy to go for there. And mana bases have to be really interesting in this format too.
Yeah, you're obviously playing a lot of basic lands. Those of us who opened Ikoria, 3 of us opened Ikoria in week 1, realized how good the fixing in Ikoria is. And that's probably because of the Ikoria draft environment. If you're playing all these big multicolored monsters, you're going to need a little bit of fixing. So cards like Farfinder is in the set, Evolving Wilds is in the set, and of course there are all the 2-color enters the battlefield tapped, gain a life lands in Ikoria. And I did notice that in week 2, 5 other people opened Ikoria as their packs. And I have some suspicion that it's because the fixing is so good. You got Fertilid, you got there's 2 or 3 mana dorks. You've got a lot of choices. So
you've got an explosive vegetation variant in there too, like
Migration Path.
Path, that's the one. So in that case, when you're thinking of what box to open and what packs to open, what plays into your mind as priorities there? What you want to build, or what has the most commander-friendly staples to it?
What I'm doing here in this, like, how am I going to make my deck better? Like I said earlier, I think I mutated onto Auspicious Starks stacked 7 times. Yeah. But peeling sort of mediocre cards off of that, it's like, all right, I'm going to put 7 things into play. And I mean, it's going to hit lands, so that's fine. You're going to get a couple of lands, and then some 2/2s that really don't do much. You're like, I need something better.
Right.
You want to mutate into your Titanoth Rex, but you need more of those in your deck.
Yeah.
So what I'm really thinking about for upcoming weeks is what sort of balmy cards am I going to get off of both the Starix and a Luna and the other kind of things. I also have an unpredictable Cyclone that I'm playing.
Nice, yeah.
Because I think I have 13 non-land Cyclone cards.
Right.
But again, you want to get into something fat. You want real value out of that replacement or that trigger. So I'm going to open M12.
Nice.
For week 3, and I'm going to open Dominaria for week 4.
Very nice, very nice.
Then I have a box of War of the Spark sitting here. Might open that for week 5.
Yeah, Dominaria and War of the Spark, excellent sets for the format. They introduced a lot that really feels like around Dominaria is when they started really leaning into giving us some goodies in some of the main sets. More than usual. Because every once in a while you would get a set where, hey, there's, 5, 6, 10, 12 cards in this set that are great for our format. But when they started saying, every set, we're going to release X amount of legendary creatures.
Right.
And I feel that really started around Dominaria is when they started leaning into that.
Yeah, I mean, there are previous sets like M12 that have a bunch of good commander cards in them, like the Titans, but they weren't put there because of commander. Right. It's later, like you said, probably 2014, 2015, 2016, maybe, when it really became part of the mindset of design. It's like, well, let's sprinkle some things in here for the commander players as well.
Absolutely. And I would really love to open something like Magic Origins for this too, because Magic Origins has some great stuff that's really underrated in the format. They had the enemy pain lands in that set. Languish and some board wipes were in that set, as well as some other great supporting cards, like Sword of the Animist, for instance, a staple in ramp for the colors that don't get traditional green ramp.
Right. That's a good concept of thought. Oof. Yeah, see, you keep thinking, and you I know that there's going to be a critical mass, right? Once we get past week 11 or 12, getting sets of new boosters is going to start getting expensive for people. But fortunately, that's about the time when Commander Legends is going to come out. So I suspect we're just going to start all over again.
Right. And that would be fascinating to do too. Starting out, everybody opens a box of Commander Legends because the possibilities in that are so vast. You have, of course, the Prismatic Piper in every pack.
Just in case.
Sorry? Yeah, well, it means that you've got the versatility there in case you open some bombs in a color that you don't get a good commander for. And I mean, in a box of Commander Legends, you're probably going to get a legendary of every color. But with Partner, it means that you can craft around everything else that you open, which is incredibly interesting. And I mean, the fact that it's built as a draft set is fascinating too. So many people I've seen have built Commander cubes, but this is the first actual draft set for Commander where you draft a Commander.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be good for Boxing League because since it's built as a draft set, that there are themes and structures that are going to be woven throughout the packs anyway. It's decks aren't necessarily going to build themselves, but you're going to have the opportunity to make sure that you have viability and playability in the cards. So I think it's going to be a very fun sort of baseline, and then you're really going to have to think about what you're going to add, what cards you're going to put in for your six pack. Because do you need fixing or do you not? Quite honestly, I don't think 2-color decks need too much fixing.
Right.
Most of my 2-color decks don't even have a command tower in them.
Really?
Yeah. Just basic lands are fine. Now, sometimes those are the later decks, especially like, when you get into deck number 35 or 40 or 50, you don't have a bunch of dual lands sitting around anymore to throw into your deck.
Naturally.
And I'm not one to pull them apart or cannibalize them for parts. So it's got to be what I have. I don't necessarily want to try to acquire too much more. And basic lands in 2-color decks, you're fine. I think that people overvalue the deck thinning that they get from things like fetch lands. And yes, fetch lands are better. There is. I'm not going to disagree with that point at all. How much better fetch lands are is a question.
Right.
And when you're playing competitive Magic at the Pro Tour, getting a tiny slice of advantage is really important.
Right.
When you're playing Commander, meh.
Yeah, unless you're looking for the landfall triggers, or you need to recur something out of the yard, like you've got a Deathrite Shaman that you need to make mana off of, or you've got a Crucible of Worlds and you're able to play that fetch over and over and over again. Those are great scenarios, but I leave them out of the majority of decks, especially now in the era of webcam Magic, because searching for a land takes up so much of everybody else's time. Right. I'm leaving them out of deck lists, and I preach on the channel, play more basics. There are so many people that play non-basics for the sake of playing non-basics when a basic land will do. You mentioned not running Command Tower in 2-color decks. I'll always run Command Tower in my decks that are more than one color. But in terms of basic lands, if I'm not running a 3 or a 4-color deck, my non-basics are maybe 5 to 10, and then everything else is basics. Wow.
That's a big, that's a big commitment. I know that I'm the only deck that I know my basic land count in off the top of my head is my Carador deck. And that's because I play Hermit Druid, and it's the most fair Hermit Druid ever since I'm running 20 basics.
There you go. Yeah. I just got the thought, Hermit Druid in a Nethroi deck with only 1 or 2 basics in it. Ooh, spicy, right?
Yeah.
So on that note, I just wanted to leave off today on Commander Legends. I know that you can't talk much about it. I know that it's coming up and we haven't seen any spoilers apart from the initial spoilers at this point. I think by the time this goes up, we'll see a little bit more about it. But what do you think of Limited as being the next evolution to Commander?
I think that we're going to see that it's a good side evolution. It's not going to be, I don't think Limited is going to be the thing that takes over Commander, or even a variant like the Boxing League, which is, a different kind of Limited, is going to take over, but it's going to provide a relief from business as usual for a lot of people. It's going to provide something different. It's going to provide an experience where you're not seeing the same cards all the time, right? If sometimes you sit down at the table with somebody, especially somebody you don't know, and they plop their commander on the table, and you can probably guess 50 of the cards in their deck. Right? And that's not a good experience for anybody, because who wants more of the same? We want new and exciting. And maybe if those 50 cards are always creating something new and exciting, then great. But I'm not a big believer in going back to the staples all the time. As a matter of fact, my primary use of EDH rec is to make sure that I'm not using the same cards as everybody else. Right.
Go and find those hidden gems.
Right. But limited will, again, like I talked about earlier in the Boxing League, it will force you to play cards that you wouldn't otherwise consider for Commander. It gives you things that you have to do an honest and intelligent evaluation of how the card is going to be in this format, right? You're used to going, okay, how does this card fit into a format with 20,000 other cards?
Yes.
Now you have to think about, well, how does this card fit into this environment of 300 or 400 other cards? And you know what most of them are.
Right.
So I think it's refreshing. I think drafting to me seems like it's going to take a little bit of time, right? Which is why I like the more sealed deck approach, because you don't eat up an hour or 90 minutes of every game session by making a new deck.
Yeah.
Which is probably one of the things that's kept me off of Cube for a while.
Right, right.
But it's a fresh approach. So this evolution is just Commander going to the gym and putting a few more muscles in a place that it's developing the calves.
Yeah.
When you used to pay attention to the biceps all the time.
Exactly. It's not skipping leg day.
Yeah, right.
So that is fantastic, Sheldon. I think that we're all looking forward to seeing what it's going to add to the format and how the format's going to keep evolving. I know that at the time of recording, you've got your regular meeting with the Commander Advisory Group coming up soon too, hoping to see what comes out of that. And even if it's just status quo, I think that is the healthiest thing for the format right now too. So very much looking forward to that. And before we go, and I want to thank you once again, Sheldon, why don't you let everybody know where they can see more of you?
Well, if you're not tired of me already, you can find me, as we mentioned, on the Commander RC Twitch channel on Thursday evenings at 8, Sunday afternoons at 2. I do 2 pieces of video content a week for Star City Games. On Monday, it's Commander Community with co-host Anthony Alonji, and we talk about everything beyond the tabletop of Magic and how it fits into our life and our lifestyles and our sort of nerdcore culture. And then on Thursdays, I have the Command Chair on Star City with a rotating band of co-hosts, which are the other 3 people on the RC. So as a matter of fact, in a couple hours, I'm going to record an episode with Toby.
Very nice.
So on the Command Chair, we have 2 blocks. In the first one, we talk about the sort of high-level RC thought processes and decisions. And then in the other block, we talk about all the cool cards that are coming out and the games we like to play.
Nice.
And then finally, on Sundays on StarCityGames.com, you can find me writing now in my 20th year.
Whew. That's some legacy.
About the best format in Magic history.
Yes.
And of course, on social media, you can find me by my name on Facebook and on Twitter.
Fantastic. There is so much content that you're turning out here, Sheldon. It's fantastic to see. If anybody wants to see the inner workings and the thought process that go into the format, highly recommend checking out some of your stuff. The podcast in particular, Command Chair, is fantastic. I love the one that you had with Olivia too, where you went into a little bit of a background of the history of the 2 of you and some of the future of why the advisory group was put together, which is fascinating. And again, timely because the meeting with the Commander Advisory Group is coming up soon. So, amazing. Sheldon, thank you so much. It was an honor having you on. I hope we'll have an opportunity to talk again soon. But for now, instead of taking a look at a deck list, everybody, I'm going to send us over to what we feel are the top 5 sets for a limited Commander format. All right, so there's 3 main criteria that matter when it comes to a limited set for Commander that we made our decision based on. The first is utility across rarity, making sure that there are good cards at Mythic, Rare, Uncommon, and Common. The second is color versatility. How many colors does the set allow you to play? Because we know that the more colors are available in a set and the more color combinations are in a set, the better it's going to fit more decks. And the third criteria is, of course, color fixing or mana bases. How does this set allow you to play the colors you want to? Naturally, that's going to make sets with strong 2 to 3 color themes rank much higher. And of course, the set needs to have been a once standard legal set. No master sets or supplemental products. I'm also not including Ikoria in the list because, as Sheldon mentioned, the set is just bonkers for this style of play. Easy number 1. With that, we start off our number 5 set with Magic Origins. While Magic Origins doesn't have a strong multicolor theme, it still includes some strong utility across rarity, with staples like Fleshbag Marauder, Sphinx's Tutelage, and Elemental Bond appearing at Uncommon, and the Flipwalkers appearing at Mythic. But one of the biggest benefits in this set is the Pain lands appearing at Rare. Pain lands are some of the best utility you can get in Commander, and opening even 1 to 2 can make your entire pool much better. At number 4 is War of the Spark. The biggest appeal here are Planeswalkers. They provide amazing utility and, in a limited environment, are less likely to be able to be taken out immediately. The set also contains some great 2-color legendaries, and lands like Interplanar Beacon at uncommon, and even Gateway Plaza at common. At number 3 is M20. This set contains strong monocolored legendary creatures at rare, along with bonkers 3-color legendaries at mythic, and even Golos Tireless Pilgrim at rare. With hits like Raise the Alarm, Act of Treason, and Anticipate at common, the utility is great too. But again, the real reason for this set being this high on the list is color fixing. The enemy-colored Temple Cycle is at rare, and all of the Gain a Life lands are at common. This is the box you need to establish a good mana base. At number 2 is Dominaria. As mentioned, this is what I feel is the first set designed with Commander in mind. The volume of legendary creatures at all colors and all combinations is massive, so the real strength is versatility when you're looking for a commander or a color combination. And with tutors like Board the Weatherlight and Final Parting at uncommon in the set, your utility is very high. Color fixing is great too, both on cards like Gilded Lotus or Navigator's Compass, through to the check lands in the rare spot. Opening a box of Dominaria means you'll always get playable cards in the colors you need. And number 1 is Fate Reforged. This set contains a multitude of 2 and 3 color legendaries in the rare spot, making it likely you'll open a color combination that works for your pool. Additionally, the volume of larger creatures, like dragons in the set, makes for the chance of opening a big body with evasion that much higher. This is another set with the Gain a Life lands at common, with a chance at fetch lands in that same booster spot. Worth the gamble for the utility this set offers. I'm interested what everybody thinks about Commander as a limited format, and let me know what you think about this list. A big thanks to Sheldon for coming out and talking to me on the show about the future of Commander. I really think that limited Commander has some legs, whether it be draft Commander from Commander Legends or sealed Commander from something like a boxing league. It's interesting to see a little bit of a glimpse of insight into where this format can be going in the coming weeks, months, and years. Until next time, folks, and the next season of Let's Do a Brew, good luck and have fun.